So many teams on the bubble, and Maryland another one of those that really needs to win not just one, but two or maybe even three games in its conference tournament. Hey, how are you folks? Jason Horowitz, CSTV Steve Lappas. Glad to be with you on CBSSports.com. And Steve, look at Maryland, BC, the 6-11 matchup in the ACC. It tips off on Thursday. When you look at Maryland as a team right now, 8-8 in the ACC, they struggled down the stretch, just 1-4. What do they have to do in the ACC tournament?
Well, they have to win a lot. Now, that loss at Virginia really hurt them. Virginia was in last place in the ACC. They lose that game, and they lost a game earlier in that week to Clemson. So right now, this Maryland team is really up against it. They have right now that win against North Carolina at North Carolina, one of the biggest upsets probably of the year, to hang their hat on. But that's not enough right now. They've got to do some work in the ACC tournament.
And that win, really the only big win that Maryland has this year. Let's not forget, this is the same team that lost earlier in the year at home to American and some of the other losses that Maryland had at VCU, which neither of those are terrible because both those teams are good teams. But you're Maryland. You don't lose to those teams.
No, absolutely not.
So let's talk about what they have to do against Boston College. And they played twice this year. They split. They each won on the opponent's home floor. If you're Maryland, who are you focusing on?
Well, you got to focus on Tyrese Rice. This guy's the leading scorer in the ACC. Imagine 35 points at halftime against North Carolina, one of the most incredible games of the year played by anybody. So Tyrese Rice, an explosive player, a great scorer, really come into his own this year, averaging over 20 a game. But if they're a little one-dimensional, BC, so if he gets stopped, they're going to have trouble winning.
Well, let me ask you this, because as a former coach, would you rather focus on stopping him, and then if he gets points and everybody else is getting points, you're in trouble? Or do you let him get his points and make sure nobody else beats you?
No, believe it or not, I think it's easier to stop a guy when you want to concentrate on stopping him than worrying about everybody else. And that doesn't mean you're going to let the other guys do whatever they want. But I think if you make it difficult for Tyrese Rice, he's going to score some points. The question is, make him shoot a low percentage. Make him really work for every point. And Maryland is capable of doing that because of the athleticism they have on the perimeter. They can make it hard on Tyrese Rice.
Now, Maryland, for Coach Gary Williams, this has been certainly a difficult season in terms of the fact that the ups and downs here, they were very high when they beat North Carolina and they finished the season down. But one of the guys that they have to ride and that they go up and down with is Gravis Vasquez. He's like a yo-yo.
Yeah, he really is. He's played well in wins, not so good in losses, and really in a lot of ways they go the way he goes. And he's had 138 turnovers this year in 32 games. That's over 4 turnovers a game, which is a lot for your point guard. Now, he can score. He does a lot of good things, but he needs to be more secure with the ball. And one thing about Gary Williams' teams, why you see his team is not playing as good this year, they're only averaging a little bit over 6 steals a game. His teams usually are at the top of the ACC in steals because they like to press you. So that's been a problem for them. But getting Gravis Vasquez to play more consistently is something that they need to do.
The other guy that needs to have a big tournament, not just a big game, is James Gist. He had a great season, a very good season, then had a couple of great games against Boston College. But if he can go on a run and Osby can have a big game, you're talking about a good Maryland team and maybe one that can go on a run.
Well, they certainly are capable. Anybody who can go into North Carolina and win, you have to feel can win any game on their schedule. Their problem has been being able to do it back-to-back. And when you're in this tournament setting, you're not just going from one game to the next. You're going 24 hours later, sometimes less, to have to do the same thing over again.
It's Boston College first. If they can get by them, then you get Clemson will be on a bye, so that would be a big win if you can get by. Then if you get by them, it's Duke. But, of course, you got to focus on Boston College first, who you had lost to earlier in the season. The game, of course, tips off on Thursday. And don't forget, folks, March Madness On Demand is back. Watch every single game of the NCAA tournament for free online and avoid the lines on game day by signing up at ncaa.com to get your free VIP pass. For CSTV and Steve Lappas, I'm Jason Horowitz. Enjoy Maryland, Boston College. Take care, folks.